Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow up on Senator Graham's comments, by the way, on Guantanamo, I was there Monday. Two things. Very, very proud of the men and women delivering that mission in Guantanamo Bay. And number two, there's plenty of vacancies available down there that we should be putting these enemy combatants there and holding them in a very secure and honorable way. Secretary Mabus, Admiral Richardson, and General Neller, thank you. I welcome you here today, and thank you for your service. The Navy and Marine Corps have long been the calling for many in Montana, including my dad, who was with the 58th Marine Corps Rifle Company from 1957 to 1962. They say you don't get to pick your daddy. I'm very proud of the one I have. Today, as Montana is home to Marine and Navy personnel, in fact, there's a Marine Reserve unit located just about 2 hours from my hometown of Bozeman. They were activated for Operation Iraqi Freedom and most recently deployed on a security operation in the Ukraine. This Montana Marine Corps Reserve unit represents the key and versatile role you all play as we witness the growing threats abroad. With the Marine Corps leading the special operations fight against the Islamic State in Operation Inherent Resolve, and the Navy fueling our pivot to the Asia-Pacific theater, I'm pleased to have you both represented here today. In an effort to save time, I'll submit many of my questions for the record, but I want to ask you about the threat of terrorism in two places because I'm concerned we may not be paying enough attention to it. One is Southeast Asia, where I spent 5 years professionally back in the 90s, as well as right here at home. For General Neller, last year you told your Marines that they would need to prepare for a new and different forms of warfare. Following the attacks in Chattanooga, we witnessed just how vulnerable our service members are right here at home and how real the new form of warfare really is. Terrorism is a serious threat, not only for our military overseas that are in the fight, but it can strike anywhere, anytime, of course, here in the homeland as well. In Montana, I was alarmed by the security for our Marine Corps Reserve unit. There was not even a fence protecting them. We're requesting $426 million this year for military construction. What steps is the Marine Corps taking to enhance security for units assigned in local communities versus on military installations?
Well, Senator, thanks for the question. On the reserve side, we've got about 161 reserve centers, INIs, around the country. The majority of them have weapons, and so when they're drilling or when there are Marines present and we have an active cadre there is somebody there who is armed, as long as that's in compliance with the local law. The recruiters, we've gone through an increased training. The recruiters in Chattanooga managed to get out. I think one was wounded, but because they were trained and they executed their plan, they were able to safely egress the recruiting center. But there are things we need to do. A lot of it's force protection, bulletproof the windows, harden the doors, reinforce the training, do a better job of passing information using just simple cell phone technology, kind of an Amber Alert thing. So all that's in train, but there's a money thing. Our bill, we estimate, for recruiting centers is about $44 million. And so it's going to take us some time to get to that. But that's where we are, and I think I'm confident on our bases and stations that we have hired more law enforcement personnel and have reinstituted additional training as far as if someone were to get aboard the base that were unauthorized to be bearing a firearm.
Thank you, General. Last week, I had the opportunity to question the Army about their operations in the Asia-Pacific theater and the concerns with terrorism in the region. General Milley listed it as number 3 after the rise of China and the instability in North Korea. Given that Asia-Pacific is historically and currently more your area of operation, I'd like to get your perspective. The Joint Task Force made up of the Army, Navy, and Marine personnel began to withdraw in 2014, but this year, those same terrorist organizations joined together and pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. We witnessed the Islamic State strike last month in Indonesia. They're in Jakarta. Their presence in the Asian Pacific is just as clear as it is throughout the Middle East. For Secretary Mabus, you're requesting $13 billion for the Department of Navy in the Asia-Pacific theater this year. How much did terrorism in the region play a role in establishing that amount?
I can't break out that amount for you, Senator, because when we request funds for sending our ships, for sending our special forces, for sending Marines to an area, we do it as a multi-mission, multitask thing. our sailors, our Marines, our ships, those, as you pointed out, on shore, on special task forces, have to be ready for whatever comes over the horizon. And we certainly recognize in places like you talked about, where, and I've been to visit that special task force, the rise of extremism and the fueling of extremism and the transit of fighters into other regions. And Asia Pacific is not alone in that. We are also having to deal with that in Africa. We're having to deal with it around the world. And it's one of the things that we are, particularly with our special forces and our Marines on the ground, are training to, and our deploying ships have to be aware of.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.